allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll, please.
Frizzalone.
Here.
Ballinger.
Here.
Fritz. Mayor. Moran. Parker.
Here.
Rice. Winfrey. Here. Tuminello.
Here.
We also have Mr. Brooks, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. First thing on our agenda is the approval of minutes from the Will County Capital Improvements Committee regular meeting June 20th.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any questions? All in favor signify by a voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First thing under old business is the update of the Will County Public Safety Complex Delivery Teams. I know Nicole gets back, I believe, August 7th from her maternity leave. Margot is not here, so I'll give the presentation for Leopardo. Yeah, but I got DLR if they want to come on up, as well as Farnswoth. So regarding the actual work at the Public Safety Complex, she wanted me to let you know that the building permit for the new tower issued by the Will County Land Use Department has been issued. There's a permit for temporary access via Route 52 that has been issued by IDOT. CM pricing, new vehicle equipment storage building. They are currently pricing that out. The new tower construction starts the first week of August. The Area A for the dispatch, the turnover date will now be September 1st. So the 911 will have their building turnover September 1st, which is a great accomplishment. Very proud of them on that. Site work phase 2A underway. The change order forthcoming for existing condition. New impound lot has been started. The building finishes are ongoing. They continue to be ongoing. I know the window treatment bid will need later approval. We'll have that on our agenda later today. And the maintenance planning is currently underway. So,
We have an idea when the 911 will go live. Anything yet? Dave?
We're planning on going live by the end of this calendar year. So it does take some time to get the
systems.
the systems up and running. And one of the things that is also worth noting, and I'll be as brief and succinct as possible, is this. With respect to the turnover of Area A, which is the dispatch center, the folks that are doing that through our ETSB are non-union personnel. Okay. Everything else on the job is union personnel.
Okay.
So in order to make that all copacetic, make all of that work properly, we're going to request a temporary certificate of occupancy for Area A, dispatch center. That alleviates any of the issues that may be associated with union jurisdictional and so forth and so on. So we do that, they get in there, they build the dispatch center, the tower's going up in the meantime, all of that gets installed, built, installed, and tested, and then fine-tuned before the end of this calendar year. So that's the approach that we're using. It may require us, because of this arrangement, it may require us to pick up builder's risk insurance on Area A. I'm looking into that right now with our risk manager. So I just want to make sure that I pointed that out. So it's a little bit tricky.
I'm talking to Mr. Bierman. I know he said it was going to take roughly 90 to 120 days once they get the turnover of the building to actually get it complete. So that would put us right in at the end of the year.
So what's going to happen September 1st, that day, turnover? What takes place in there until you go live? What kind of activity will we be doing?
We have to connect a lot of their systems with some of the technology that the 911 individuals have to get in there and actually make it live.
Right. I think just to add some detail to that, there's going to be a punch list that takes place to make sure that the construction is appropriate. It's really a shell that's being provided on the first. The pulling of all the wire, the cable to each of the dispatch workstations, the installation of the actual furniture for the dispatch consoles, the connection of the 911 switches and routers and so forth to each of the consoles, and then connection to the tower as well. So all of that needs to happen. So it's furniture installation, it's technical installation, and so forth.
Good. Any other questions?
Are they going to be running both systems simultaneously for a while just to make sure things are going?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How long, any idea how long they might go on?
Well, they'll build, the plan is to keep all of the current systems operational until the new system and the new dispatch has been fully installed, tested, debugged, etc. Together they'll pick a date of when they'll go live, and that switch, it's basically, stop one day, start the next. So there's got to be that level of course, by the nature of what's happening, there's got to be that level of certainty and continuity. So
Any of that old equipment coming to the new facility,
No.
or what are they doing with all that?
it's all new equipment provided by the ETSB.
And what about all the old equipment? Are we recycling it to other?
That is,
ones, or is that
well,
been
that's a
discussed?
good question. I don't know the exact answer to that, but it is property of the ETSB, as is the existing radio tower. And so in our contract for construction of the new tower, we have dismantling of the existing tower in our scope. What ETSB decides to do with that tower once it's dismantled, I do believe that they have another location in mind to utilize it, but I'm not sure.
Would you like to add anything?
The only other item is that we have the signage package out to bid as well for the complex.
For the monument?
Or
for the whole?
The whole signage package.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, with Farnswoth Group, so in terms of commissioning, things are going to keep progressing through the end of the year, as we have been doing with regular site visits, attendance at meetings. But with Area A, getting that ready, we've developed the FPTs. In the next week, we're going to distribute those to Leopardo, go over the testing procedures. And FPTs stand for Functional Performance Test. Sorry about that. So we're going to actually have a pretty thorough testing of the systems that are going to be ready in mid-August. There's going to be some systems that won't quite be ready, but anything that we find with that testing of Area A, we'll work with DLR Group to put in the punch list and coordinate that so that those items get resolved, through a kind of a unified list.
Excellent.
And then the only other piece here is we're starting to talk about O&Ms, getting some drafts. We're getting some training agenda discussions going and things like that with Leopardo. So we'd like to get those things reviewed sooner than later, and as part of the commissioning process, make sure that those are meeting our O&M, the county's O&M needs, operation and maintenance needs.
And I take it you've had the opportunity to get acquainted with our new facilities
Joel?
manager?
Yep.
Excellent.
Absolutely. So
We're working side by side.
Actually, we're having a meeting right after this.
yeah, we're going to meet after this and talk more details, but
Wonderful.
certainly it's a great opportunity here to
Well,
get in the loop.
I feel very confident that you'll be handing over your information to a very competent individual. I know
Yeah.
we had an opportunity to meet with him and interview him, as did obviously the executive when he hired him, but very excited about him coming on board and working with you guys. So great. Do you have anything else, Mr. Friedrich, that you'd like to add?
Yes, work on the SOG building, or SOG, however it's been called. It's a garage, okay.
Vehicle garage.
Vehicle garage.
It's a special utility vehicle.
Okay. We're moving ahead on that. We're talking structural systems, working through the masonry structure with that. We got a couple of meetings tomorrow and later in the week for mechanical systems as well. We've gotten the connection points from Leopardo, the utilities that are on site where we need to connect to. So we're progressing ahead with that.
Outstanding. Dave, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, to that end, we understand what the budget is for that building. We've gone back and forth a number of different times with revisions to the floor plan. I think that we've been able to provide everybody the space that they need and with a nominal amount of growth for the future. and that within the next couple of days, I would expect that finalized floor plan and the building enclosure system, which has been, and the site plan, which is another big piece of the puzzle there. Because of the weight of the vehicles that'll be going in and out of that building, we needed to make sure that the apron around that building and those overhead doors was sufficient to handle that level of traffic, as is the drive that is in and out of the entire facility. So we had to have some compatibility done, turning radius, et cetera, and so forth. That has all been completely worked. The onset of that IDOT permit for access off of Route 52 was a big development and a long time coming. That'll allow for emergency access or emergency exit only. If one of the emergency vehicles, no matter who it is, let's say Lairway's blocked, okay, then there's a way out. I mean, you could go to Cherry Hill, the current way that we have it set up over there, but now we have another means by which to get those vehicles on the road in very short order if need be. And so it also serves a dual purpose, because with the permanent impound lot that's being worked on currently, and with the radio tower, which is scheduled to start construction on the first week of August and end sometime in mid-September. That's where he is going to be bringing in his equipment and his contractors to do that work, because if you recall, that's a separate, that is not, I mean, we're coordinating that with the construction manager, but it's a separate contract for that work. So a lot of good things happening there, and the road work, if you've been by there lately, the right-hand turn lane is, I think it would have been done already had it not been for the onslaught of the precipitation, but we're working to complete that. We're starting on the permanent impound lot, which is south of the shooting range, with the hopes of getting that done and ready to utilize for the Will County Sheriff Department on September 1. And then that way we'll forego having to do our lease, the balance of our lease space down the road. And so it's all coming together. And just one other thing I wanted to mention too is that we will be presenting a change order for some parking lot work and some stormwater drainage work that involves the phase 2A, as I call it, the work that's being done on the parking lot, the curb and gutter and the paving and so forth and so on. There's an area back by the shooting range and by the training building, the existing training buildings, just south of the vehicle maintenance garage, that had some existing stormwater structures that were defunct, and they needed to be dealt with, and so that change order is coming to this committee at the next meeting.
Denise, do you have your hand up?
No.
Okay, Jim.
Then let me ask you on the garage. Are we going to put any bid packages? Are you just handing this over to the Fardo? I mean, what's the method going to be here? Are we going to put it out? Me personally, I will tell you that, if it's possible to break it into bid packages, this really does help our smaller contractors. These are jobs they can take. I don't favor just letting Leopardo self-perform on this or whatever they're going to do. So what's the plan here?
Mr. Speaker, the plan is to, and has been, to utilize the change order process with the existing trade contractors to build that building, and not to put it out on for public bid.
I don't know, by using the existing contractors?
Yes.
So the existing carpenter, the existing roofer, the existing contractor.
That's not that. Leopardo is a self-performer.
Well, no, they are not self-performing, and then the other part of it is that they're within the 10%, the costs are within the 10% thresholds for each trade versus their initial or the base contract award amounts. as I understand it, and you can correct me then, Mary, if they're within 10% of that base bid award amount, then it's perfectly legal to proceed along those lines. And right now we are, so. But if there is if this committee wants to change or that, it's not too late to do so. We can certainly entertain that. What I'd like to suggest is that I present you, Mr. Chairman, with an estimate based on the design development that we have thus far, and that should be available this week. And then we can take it from there and decide
Absolutely.
if you want to change course.
Well, let me say this, is that if we're gonna do it this way, you better make sure you really have good cost estimates. You know, we all know that very often, the biggest profit margins for contractors is in the change order, because it's not competitive necessarily. So I would say that you're gonna have to really feel comfortable with the estimate of cost and hold them to it. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's my feeling about it. I mean, you usually don't get as competitive as price in a change order. That's my point.
Okay.
So I think that there's a lot that falls on then you to make sure, maybe along with DLR, to make sure, along with your previous, to make sure that you're really comfortable with these costs coming as a change order. And that we're not paying some kind of, 5%, 10%, 15% premium because it's not competitive. I mean, I hope you're prepared to push back.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing we'll need to do then is take a look at that initial number. First of all, let's see if that's even a possibility. It may be a moot point once we get the initial figures back.
And I don't question whether the 10% is legal or even the pricing on that, although that bears looking into. What comes to mind for me is that it may not be as inclusive for local contractors as it could be if you were to put that out. And that's something I would encourage us to look at.
Mary, I have a question for you. We tend to put all these cost estimates with public. Well, then they know what we're thinking. We could be wrong. I mean, can we keep that as a not necessarily public number?
I don't think so, because negotiations are pretty much limited to labor and real estate transactions, purchasing and leasing of real estate. It doesn't really go to other contracts. But I will double check that.
Does anybody else have any questions? All right. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a presentation of monument sign at the Public Safety Complex. Dave?
That monument sign was fine-tuned by DLR. It was presented, it was fine-tuned in accordance with the comments that were made by this committee during the last review. And that was then presented at last Wednesday's OAC meeting. And I apologize, I could have brought that in to show you the final product, but I can assure you it doesn't differ from the expectations and the outline.
So it's going out to bid?
Pardon me?
When's it going out to bid?
It's actually already out to bid.
It's already out to bid.
It was just submitted to bid.
And you expect it back when?
2 weeks. So, and again, that's the monument sign and all of the wayfinding signage inside the building as well.
Wayfinding, graphics, site signs, everything down to handicap parking signs.
So with regard to the monument sign, the comments that were made by this committee were incorporated in that when you went out to bid?
That's 100% correct.
So then we'll take a look at it. I don't know if it's going to be ready, available for our next capital meeting, because that's in 2 weeks. And may have to be pushed to the second one of the month to go over that. Is that it?
Yes.
Great. Any questions, Dave? Thank you. Next on the agenda is the update for the Courthouse Delivery Team, White, Gilbane, and Farnsworth. I know Jason is on vacation. He asked that we just relay this information. First of all, the second trade contractor meeting, the outreach meeting, is July 26th at 5:30 at the IBEW 176 Hall in Joliet. It's very important. We have done a tremendous job pushing the local labor. We've gone to the local halls. They've actually got involved and gotten lists from their local contractors and actually sent out invites as well. So we're expecting a very good local turnout on Wednesday, July 26th at 5:30 at the IBEW Hall in Juliet. The permit submittal to the COJ is scheduled for July 28th, 2017. Also, with the conversations that we've had with local escalator and elevator companies, there was some concern. So we packaged it up because of the size of this contract. We packaged it up and we got it out early. That bid is actually due August 3rd, so we can continue to keep moving forward on any issues that would cause any timing issues. We got that moved forward, so it's August 3rd. Utility relocation engineering work is underway. Jason wanted me to inform the committee that they have begun engineering work on the AT&T, the ComEd, as well as the NICOR. It's underway, and he will have a report for us at the next meeting regarding the progress. The abatement bids for 25 North Ottawa were received. The scope review with the contractor is scheduled. And relocation of the planning for occupants of 25 North Ottawa Street is currently underway. So, would you like to add anything to that, Dave?
No, I think that you've covered it quite well, and unless you have something to add,
I think we do have the pre-bid meeting tomorrow for the elevator bid pack, elevator escalator bid package is tomorrow, the 19th, 2 p.m. in this building, conference room B. We've been talking to elevator contractors. They're kind of an independent bunch, so we'll see who shows up. But we have been. We have been pushing with them. So that is tomorrow at 2, and I think we're plugged into that. And as you said, Mr. Chairman, those bids are due 8/3. We do have the permit meeting also. I think it's still on for 8/3 with Mr. Mackley over at the City of Joliet. He's going to have Public Works and a lot of his inspection folks there too from his staff to talk with us and the permit going forward. And I know Dave Tack has been done some meetings up front with them to make sure that we get this submitted and approved in the order, and then the dates we need for submittals and approvals for foundation permits and demolition and that, so forth. The 8/23, Mr. Chairman, the next meeting after the 26th outreach, that is, excuse me, will be 8/23 at Local 597 Pipe Fitters, 5:30 to 7:30. Thanks, Reagan, for catching our date issue there, and so we corrected that.
It's actually not.
Okay, thank you. We were going to, also, we had talked today about sitting in the abatement scope review meeting just to make sure we understand that scope. So when we write the demolition scope, we've got all of that coordinated and put out any of the issues that demolition will have to deal with there from the abatement.
Excellent.
Quick question. On the elevator bidding, in the planning, did we go for a platform or cable for the elevator itself? I mean, or is it doing a platform straight up, or is it a cable system?
Yeah, we got the hydros, the first two elevator, I'm not sure if they're 1, 2, but we got 2 hydros, 8,000 pound capacity hydraulics going downstairs to the first floor, and then the others are going to be traction.
Okay. And does that dictate the kind of, or the people that will come in for the bidding on how we put that together, or these guys do either one?
Yes, sir, they'll do either one. White had covered in the specs who the acceptable manufacturers would be for those 8,000 pound hydros. And those names of those manufacturers are listed in the specs, so those guys have got that. And I think it's a fairly common, in this particular instance for those guys, they'll use Minnesota Elevator, whoever, as a manufacturer for their furnish and installed in the total package. If it's Otis or Schindler or Thyssen or, who's the fourth? Thyssen, Schindler, Otis, Koenig. Thank you.
I know it took us a while to get one of our schools open because we couldn't get our elevators.
They're prima donnas.
Oh, boy.
They're like the oil companies. Worse.
Thank you, Jim.
You know, here's my concern about hydraulic elevators. Kone, I have some experience with in my township building, and their software was proprietary. Therefore, they were the only ones who could work on the elevator for maintenance contracts. I originally had somebody else, and then they said, you're gonna have to go to Kone because they won't give us the codes. So, this has been a concern of mine ever since, and I would have hoped that we either had in the specs that they would not be using proprietary software or something that we just could not have anybody service. So I think it's something that we have to be extremely aware of. Tom, I don't know if you've run into this in the past.
Not the software.
Well, maybe it was the software. I think it was something to do with software.
Okay.
I'm just telling you from my experience. But whatever it was, they couldn't fix it because they couldn't get the code or the part, or I want to say it was the code, so they couldn't do the diagnostic part of it. Only Kone could do it.
We'll look into that.
You know, so
We were going to bid as an alternate, the maintenance agreement. After the initial warranty period of 1 year is up, then there will be an alternate cost for them to give us for what maintenance would be from the installer, but we'll look into this also.
I mean, I think that you can just even just ask folks in the industry, you know, if there's proprietary hardware or software that only they have access to, that's a problem. And I understand it's not the same problem with cable type elevators. That's pretty much just, you know, I mean, it's not as complex, I don't know, but and why hydraulic? I'm not a fan of hydraulic elevators, that's why. They're slow, they're expensive to maintain.
Do one more take on that.
Yeah.
Number one, they're only going 2 stories. Okay, so they're only going.
That's what Hurley goes to, though.
So it's very.
Takes you all day to take the elevator. You might as well walk. It's like saying, just go take your steps.
That's part of the wellness program.
So it's very unusual to have a traction type machine for 2-story lift. The other interesting aspect of these is the weight capacity. Right, 8,000 pounds is not a standard lift capacity for a hydraulic machine, and it's usually much less, just south of 5,000 pounds, sometimes even 3,500 pounds. So.
Yeah, it's true.
So.
They're smaller.
Right, so anytime that you have a traction type, then you need a machine room above it. I don't know that that would have been an easy thing to accomplish or cost-effective thing to accomplish. Hence,
So we wouldn't have, in this building, we would be going into a basement or a pit to take a cable elevator from the top, from the bottom to the top. Is that what you're saying? Why couldn't you use the same elevators?
Because the hydraulic elevators are only for transporting the bad guys from the ground floor
So
down
they're
to the
segregated
holding area.
elevators?
Yes, sir. All the rest of them are not. So you have 2 that service this holding area, 2 hydraulic machines that service the first floor to lower level. And that's it. Everything else, everything, right.
Yeah,
So they're actually going to.
Prisoners are going to be a little slow. but
they're in no hurry.
You're in no hurry.
But I'm still concerned about the maintenance part. And I'm telling you, at least with Kone, I've had that experience.
Okay. We'll look into that. Yeah.
You could let me know, Dave, on the results of that. That'd be great.
Yes.
You have anything else, Tom?
No, sir.
On the commissioning side, we, over the last couple of weeks, we finished a 75% spec review. So the 50% drawings came out back in, I think, May or April. We did a review, and then we asked White if they would produce a spec set for us to also compare to the drawings. So White produced that, and we finished that review a couple weeks ago. We really wanted to get that extra one in just so that we're prepared for the permit set, which is going to be coming out, I think, a week and a half or so. So we want to make sure that we're set with the design review and where the design's currently at. The building envelope commissioning testing. So this is how the building skin, the roof gets tested and verified for quality control during construction. We're finalizing those processes and those tests right now, because the drawings and the specs are kind of at a point right now where we're able to work with White and make recommendations on those tests. So that is probably going to be finalized here this week. We'll have that in the permit set, and then we'll be able to get some pricing on that. Then the other part of it is the operations and maintenance of the facility, just making sure we're keeping that in the forefront as we go through the design phase. Obviously with Joel on board, we're going to download a lot of this information with him today here and throughout the next couple of weeks to kind of get him up to speed. But really we've started to talk to White and the rest of the OAC team about sub-metering in the building, looking at how the building is going to be maintained. Things called key performance indicators to know if the building's using too much energy. Maybe 2 years down the road it might get a little bit out of whack. So we're trying to get in touch with what are the parameters that we want to measure, because those are the things that need to get in the contract documents. Sure. And we need to make sure that those are all squared away. So that's kind of where our focus has been probably over the last couple of weeks, and then with our focus being the review of the permit set when that comes out.
Excellent. Any questions?
I do have a question. This actually goes back to Dave and Tom. What they ask, and that's when you're sitting down with the city of Joliet and talking about inspections and permitting and so forth. Now, this isn't an everyday building. I do know that when Amazon came in, there was some delays for the city, not purposely, but they were behind some of the technologies. They didn't know some of the methodology that was being used and so forth, and some of the systems. And so they had to get up to speed themselves, slightly delayed. It wasn't like they were trying to stop, but they needed to update their ordinances to accommodate some of the new technologies Amazon was using in construction. I don't know if we're going to have some of those same situations. I would think that we would, perhaps. I mean, they may have to bring us some outside help. So I guess I'm asking the question, are those the type of, is that the type of discussion you're going to have? Tom, do you think we may run into some things that they may be unfamiliar with, that we need to make them aware of up front, so they're up to speed when we get there?
I don't know that we're planning anything that would be, out of the ordinary as far as construction means and methods.
Okay.
If that's what you mean, Mr. Richards.
Yeah.
We'll look at that and before the 8-3 meeting and see if there's anything that might need to be discussed with them. But right now, I don't think that there's anything that they would not have seen already with any of the construction here in the county, or the city, I should say.
Okay. We're talking about a structural steel building. That would be
Right.
something they wouldn't inspect on a daily basis for sure. They could be doing something that's a couple stories. I don't know the last time, a building over 3 stories was built here. I mean, so I'm just throwing that out just so to make sure you have those discussions to see what they may need, if they're going to need to maybe go to the outside, or things there you may not be comfortable with that they haven't maybe inspected in the last 10 years. I'm just throwing it out so everybody's prepared.
I do understand your point, and there probably will be some times where they're going to want to get in a man lift. They're going to want to look at, say, if it's exterior, if it's the rain screen, if their interface is there with the glazing the curtain wall. And we were going to talk about that as to how they access it safely. We give them access to man lifts and so forth to do their inspections. So we'll talk about all of that with them to make sure that everything's covered. that they need to see and we do safely.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, they're another layer of protection for us when they inspect that it's being done correctly, that it's sound. You know, I just want to make sure that they're ready, that if they need to be better prepared, or if we need to assist them in some way, then we're ready to do that.
Okay.
One of the concerns, and you bring up a very good point, and one of the concerns that we had, and one of the things that I wanted to know very recently prior to the plan submittal and the plan review process, which is scheduled for the 28th, and then of course kind of like the initial meeting on August the 3rd with the City of Joliet, with their building department. In advance of all of this, I met with the director of the building department, building and inspections department for the city, a gentleman by the name of David Mathley, and talked to him about, you know, what's coming up on the 28th, what's coming up on the 3rd. One of the suggestions that he made, and when I mentioned that there were going to be, this is a huge submittal and a huge project that we're looking at, and believe me, I learned this the hard way because I'm old school. I like the drawings, and at the end of the 100% DD drawings, I asked for a full set. There's like over 700 drawings. Okay, so that's a lot of drawings to review. And one of the suggestions that Mr. Mackley made is that we separate one set of the permit submittal by discipline. So all the architectural will go into, you know, will be bound, structural will be bound separately, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, etc. That is going to help him distribute those drawings and do the initial, initial review. So I think that was a good call on his part. The other thing that I wanted to bring up too is that in that meeting, he also mentioned that they will be working with the county to issue sort of a or to undertake a phased permitting process for the project. And there is no intent on their behalf to hold us up in any way, shape, or form. For example, if we need to do a demolition permit, boom, demolition permit. You know, that'll be issued or that'll be sanctioned by the City of Joliet. If we need site work permit or foundations only permit, etc., everything short of a full-blown building permit, which is typically all-inclusive for all the trades in the entire building. So they are expressed willingness to work with us and issue these permits incrementally as we need them. Which
but to Mr. Music's point,
but the point has nothing to do purposely, or intentionally, I should say, but that they just would become a little overwhelmed or not perhaps have a certain expertise that they would need for an understanding, and inadvertently it gets out.
Right, but typically in a situation like that, I mean, even at, like, coming from the village of New Lenox, there were projects that would come in, were far out over our expertise level, and every one of the villages, I'm sure the City of Joliet does the same thing, because I can imagine there's probably not people on staff that have the expertise to be able to review a building of this magnitude, or maybe they do, but in most villages or cities that don't, they work with outside sources. So most likely our prints are actually going to go to an outside source to get reviewed, and the comments will go back to the City of Joliet, and the city will relay them to us. I don't believe it's going to be internally done on their end. I think they're going to have to sub it out. I mean, maybe, or maybe they do have someone, but all in all, at the end of the day, someone with the eyes to be able to look at this with the expertise level will be looking at these.
I don't know if he indicated if B&F was going to be a part of the review for them, if they were going to farm that out to them or not. We'll find out, but you're right.
Yeah. That's just kind of being discussed tonight.
On the third, yes.
They should be able to tell you who they use in those situations as well. Chuck and then Mike.
Yeah, and this is back to Mike. You would ask White you could review some plans with them, and then you ask them for some more detailed information. Do they have up front, or have you put together a complete scope of what all your expectations are throughout this entire project? And do these guys have this up front so that we're not having to ask them to go back and give you more details, because that's gonna cost us more money as they have to go and put more time and stuff, rather than get it as it goes forward.
Yeah, you know, it was probably a little anomaly here with the 50%, just the drawings coming out rather than drawings and specs. So I think probably going forward, I don't see any issues. You know, I know we're 90% permit set, and then 100% CDs, which both have drawings and specs. So I think we'll be okay there. But yeah, that was just, I think it was a little bit of an anomaly where we just got the drawings, and then our reviewers are like, well, it'd be good to,
We're missing some stuff.
yeah, to coordinate and review both pieces.
And so that's my point. Can we be more proactive with, you know, thinking about how the rest of this project's going? I mean, you still have a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
And so what kind of things might we need to have more details up front so that they know what they're doing as they're going along versus having to backtrack?
Yeah, I think one of the things we've done, but we could probably, you know, bump it up a little bit. We put together, you know, some of the expectations, and we're talking about those at the OACs with White, you know, especially like this building envelope testing. You know, when does that get incorporated into the specs? You know, so they know our expectations, that we want that in the permit set, for example. So we've been working towards getting that finalized here a couple weeks early. Yeah, I think that probably, you know, just, you know, really honing in on some of those expectations at these OACs. I think with Joel on board too, when it comes to a lot of the controls, the building controls and things like that, that becomes kind of complex in terms of what expectations are in the specs. But I think, you know, with Joel on board, we'll be able to get those answers, get those things discussed, and then that clear direction forward. So we have that information in the sets that we review coming up. But I think we'll be okay with going forward from here with the remaining sets. But that's a good point. Appreciate that.
Mike?
And Dave, are you know, when you meet with Joliet, are you giving them a timetable of when we might need all of those kinds of permitting, so they can say, wait, we can't get this done this fast, or that looks reasonable? Are you putting that kind of schedule together for them?
Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, on the 3rd, that is going to be a primary topic of discussion.
So you'll be doing a scheduling of permits that are needed.
That's correct. In my mind, I think their current plan is to review the permit documents in-house with their own building department staff and their own plan reviewers. I don't think that they are planning to do any outsourcing. That's not to say that they might not, but when you think about it, everybody that does review plans, no matter for what type of building, is typically a registered architect or a licensed structural engineer if they're doing those sorts of things. And so, depending upon their discipline. So, it shouldn't be a problem, even though, yes, it is the largest building that this city has seen in a very long time, but that's not to say that they might not seek outside help. And they did talk David talked initially about a timeline of 4 weeks, which I think is very assertive. So.
Well, they would have their own consulting professionals too that they use.
That's right.
Yes. Gloria?
Dave, I just have a question about timing of the project with what Joliet's doing with this Chicago Street, and making sure that that project, if it's going before our project or after our project, that the timing of that all goes well, so that we don't have interruptions with that. Same time. So, exactly. So, can we make sure we have a good conversation? Because just think about all the traffic that's going to be traveling down there with the trains and the buses and the whole, we really need to have some discussion on traffic patterns and things like that will happen downtown, so we move the project in a way that is still not too disruptive for the residents that are coming through.
Understood.
Thank you.
I mean, we see how just their water main replacement project, which is happening now absent courthouse construction, and even that in and of itself is very disruptive with different traffic patterns and closures and so forth and so on. So make no mistake about it, it's going to be tough when we do that when they do the Chicago Street thing and when we're building that courthouse. It's going to be tough, and it will have to be carefully coordinated. Absolutely.
And I'll just piggyback on that. We talked about this before, about the joint statement from us and the city about what's happening, traffic patterns, what the alternate routes are, when people can expect it to open up, when they can't, those kinds of things. So I'm hoping that we are working really hard on being put those kinds of documents together, make it very public, so that everybody knows, put it up on the signboards around town. Here's the route, here's when you can expect it to be open, here's when it's going to close, all of that.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Next on the agenda is the discussion of the future of the current Will County Courthouse. At this time, there's nothing to add. Yeah, I'm going to. At this time, there's nothing to add. However, I'd like, Lana, if you could take this off the agenda for a few months, that'd be great, just maybe know, because by the time, we gotta wait till we get the White study back before we can even go into the next set of discussions on that. At this time, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna ask the Chief Judge to come on up. I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but I know he has a pretty big announcement here that he'd like to make. Pretty exciting.
It is great news.
Absolutely. We know he's not retiring.
I wish, no. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, County Board members, staff, good morning. Yes, just a brief background. A long time ago, the Illinois Supreme Court developed written standards for how a courtroom is supposed to look. Height, depth, length, width, sound, sight lines, technology, those sorts of things. Occasionally, there are reasons to modify those minimum guidelines, especially if the architect can find a way to make a better use of space, more efficient use, maximize the space. And in this case, White & Company was able to do that. You all know that the floors 6 through 9 especially were originally designed to be 4 courtrooms per floor, and White & Company found a way to make it 5 courtrooms per floor. And an example of the modifications that we needed from those standards was some of those new courtrooms that were designed would be 1 foot narrower than what was required by those standards. So that's an example of what we asked for, and Jason Dwyer from White prepared all these waivers, organized them, got them to me, and under a letter from me, I delivered them to the Supreme Court last April. Very important part of this process, of course. And I did get a letter back Thursday of last week that I'll read in part and paraphrase. The Supreme Court has reviewed and considered the waiver requests in comparison to the minimum standards, and I am pleased to inform you that all requests have been granted. So that was certainly a large piece. I did ask Jason Dwyer last week what would happen if any of these waivers were not granted, and his response was not one that I can repeat.
To simplify it, had we not been given the waivers, or if that had stalled out, we would risk obviously having to redesign the floors.
Right.
And obviously, keep us on the present track that we're on today. This was vital to obviously certainly maximize the space that's in the courthouse to its fullest potential with the maximum amount of courthouses for the residents of Will County, and anything outside of that would have been that could have been disastrous. So we're really happy that we thank the administrative office of the Illinois courts for granting us those waivers. We really do appreciate it.
Yes, very, very much. And I do believe from the judicial end of it that I think that we've done everything that we need to do to be sure this project is a go. Now it's all on you again, but thank you all very much for all of your hard work on this. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate all your hard work as well. Thank you. Very good news. Before we go on to new business, one other thing on the health department, just to update the committee. The programming for the new facility is currently underway, and we are actually scheduled to have the new program completion by the end of the year. So they're on target to hit December 31st with the entire programming for the new health department. Where we're going to put it still remains to be seen, but we are on schedule for the end of the year. New business. The first on the agenda is the awarding contract to Indicor, Morton Grove, Illinois, for window treatments for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Any questions? Properly moved in second. All in favor signify by a voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is authorizing payment to Leopardo Company for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Probably moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by a voice vote of aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorizing payment to Farnswoth Group for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Hearing properly moved in second. Any questions, discussions? Nothing? No one's lively today. All in favor signify by a voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorizing a payment to Strongland, DeYoung, and Priebus for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Missed
Number
HR.
4, HR Green.
I don't have, oh, HR Green, yeah. HR Green, how about we pay that?
Donating.
Properly moved in second. All in favor signify by a voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, Strongland, DeYoung, and Priebus for the Will County Public Safety Complex. All right, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the payment to Burris West Building LLC for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Properly moved in second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is authorizing payment to Nicor Gas for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Properly moved in second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorizing payment to ComEd for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing payment to Geocon Professional Services with Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorizing payment to City of Joliet for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorizing payment to Futrure Communication Solutions for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing payment to CDW-G for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing payment to Graybar for Will County Public Safety Complex. Is there a second? Properly moved in second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing payment to Amazon.com for the Will County Public Safety Complex. Okay, moved and second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorizing payment to White & Company for the Will County Courthouse. Properly moved and second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorizing payment to Gilbane Building Company for the Will County Courthouse.
Second.
Properly moved and second. On a discussion, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And last but not least, authorizing payment to Farnsworth Group for the Will County Courthouse.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any public comments? Any public comments at all? Anybody? There is no chairman's report. I think we've talked enough. There is no need for an executive session today. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Properly moved in second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. 10:30.